All right, so I want to welcome Dr. Jennifer Hoffman, one of the newest St. John University PhD in literacy graduates to the talk today, where we're going to be looking at how do you convert or flip a dissertation into a journal article. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing today now that you're graduated?
After graduating, I took on a new position at work where I do a lot more with professional development, mentoring teachers, working more with STEM education, which is very exciting. I do like coding a lot, teaching some of the engineering projects and so forth, but a lot more mentoring, a lot more professional development, being in front of a group, a lot of presentations, digital presentations. So that took a little getting used to. It was a lot more time, a lot more planning, a lot more interacting with staff and supporting them.
Which is something different altogether if you think about it. Whereas years ago, we went to school to teach children or adolescents, and now oftentimes we teach adults. So let's get into the first question, which is, what do you think are the inherent difficulties that lie in that conversion process of taking a dissertation that might be 200, 250 pages and turning it into a 25-page article, for instance?
It's a great question, and I've thought about it a lot. The hardest part, I think, was knowing when to begin. Should I have been thinking about this while I was writing my dissertation? Should I have been organizing it in the same structure framework that a journal is organized? Should I have a certain journal in mind? And so forth. So I think the hardest part was when. And then should I wait till after I defended? Should I wait till after I finished the edits from after defending and so forth? So deciding when was one of the toughest things. And then there was some decision making that was involved with writing the article. My dissertation was quite large, if you remember.
I seem to remember reading it a few times, certainly.
It was quite expansive. I really combined a lot. So there was a lot of decision making. Should I include all those components? Should I include the survey, the interviews, the microethnographies into one article, or would that best be served in 2 or 3 articles?
Absolutely. So I second what you said in terms of a design, right? So much like you had a research design for your dissertation, there really needs to be some brainstorming and, logical reasoning involved in how are you going to split up, differentiate, select certain aspects of your larger study and put that into a smaller piece. And to what extent can you split that perhaps to get the best bang for your buck for 2, 3, or however many journal articles?
Exactly.
Okay.
Those were those decisions. And then how to go about co-authoring a paper. In the past, I had been approached by former professors who wanted to co-author a conference paper or present with me. So I had never really taken the initiative to do that. So I thought, let me learn a little bit more about that. And when do I initiate that? Do I initiate it after I've written the paper, when I'm in the process, and so forth?
That's a good point, because if you think about it in hindsight, some people can just publish an article, for instance, from their literature review, right? So like a historical analysis on a topic. And does that really have to wait until after you defend your paper? Or can you go ahead and try to get that published so that when you finish, you might already have a couple of publications on your CV or your resume?
Right, exactly.
And of course, you're also under the real world time crunch of, I need to finish this bad boy up, right?
That was basically the goal. That was part of the decision was made for me, because that last year it was just pounding the pavement and trying to get it done while working full time and being there for my family, but still doing the best job that I could.
Absolutely. So the second question is, what do you think about the differences or the nuances involved in terms of how is the style of writing different when you write for a journal as opposed to a dissertation?
I think they have some similarities. both dissertation and a journal, they have the basic parts of a research paper, the basic parts of a study. You're still being asked to write in a concise, understandable manner, have some smooth transitions in between the parts. But then the journal articles and the journals that I studied differ from a dissertation, and they differ from each other. So that was very interesting to see. They differ in terms of their formality. Some are very formal and written from the third person, imparting research and so forth. And others are more informal, from a first person. Here's my journey, and here's the thought processes, my interests, and so forth that went along with this.
And I know that you're a well-studied individual when it comes to selecting a suitable journal for publication or trying to submit to a particular journal in particular. And so do you think that writing for a journal and submitting a journal article is a linear and or formulaic type of writing, that you can sort of study it, do a backwards design and deconstruct that idea, and then sort of fit your project into that model? And do you think that that's an appropriate way to do it, or do you think oftentimes it's more of a creative approach?
Well, I think it depends on the person, the researcher, the writer, and I think you can do both. For me, I'm a little bit of both. I can be very linear and everything's on a grid and I have to map it out and then be able to explain it, compare and contrast, see the quantities and so forth. So I can be very linear and mathematical, and then I can be very imaginative and creative and think, what's the best way to present this? What's really going to capture my audience's interest? How can I make my reader want to continue?
That's well said. So it's those points where maybe you should take risks. It's just a matter of when and where,
Exactly.
In that regard. And I think I've been doing more and more of that. I think I've mentioned to you in introductions to my journal articles. And I see it as, we've always been taught that there is this formula and you want to attract readership from the beginning. But I almost write in a more informal or loose fashion in the intro to really ensure that people understand what I'm trying to say through using analogies and a host of other types of informal language to draw them in. And once they get interested, then we can sort of go back to, traditional ways of writing a research paper. The third question that I wanted to look at is, how do you believe you can continue to grow and improve despite having, despite not having a supervisor now that you've already graduated as an emerging academic in the field?
Right. That's a good question too. I definitely thought about that since graduating. After I defended, summer began, and I really felt, now I'm on my own. Everyone's off, and I have to chart my own path. And I had this wonderful support system for the last 4 years with working with you and my committee, my professors, my cadre, and suddenly I was on my own. So it definitely took some adjusting, even though I had been on my own before graduate school, and I had done some things before as well. But it took some adjusting, and it was good. It gave me a chance to really reflect and think, how do I most want to spend my time? What do I want to do with the knowledge and skills that I acquired? And I took some time to learn from others that I really hadn't heard from. I started reading the Chronicle of Higher Education. They had a section called Vita. So I got to hear.
Can you say the name of that section one more time? I didn't quite hear it.
Oh, sorry. It's called Vita.
Vita, okay.
Short for curriculum vitae. And I read short pieces from other people who had recently graduated from doctoral programs, and some of the things they warned against, and some of the things they encouraged people to do. Some of the pieces were very funny. So it was really a great way to step outside my comfort zone and see what else is out there. I expanded my membership in some professional organizations and read their journals that I really hadn't read before. And I started reading the journals, not just to think, well, how would this fit in my literature review, or how will this fit with my study? But I started reading them to think, how did this researcher organize the article? And how did he or she write the article? How did they include themselves and talk about their interests? Was there a theoretical framework? I started really looking to see how the articles were in and of themselves.
That's an excellent point. I think one of the ways that I've developed in a similar capacity is by studying CVs and or academic lineages of different experts in the field and seeing how did they develop, right? So, you know, maybe Tim Rosinski, for example, wasn't always into fluency, but he stumbled across that topic in later years. So that sort of gave me confidence that I didn't have to have everything already mapped out and answered in year number one. And it was okay to engage in sort of wide research to see really what interested me and where I wanted to take my career path.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's what that kind of thinking led me to think I need to have some kind of attitude, some kind of way of thinking about things. When I was in graduate school, my attitude was no excuses. Okay. Never give an excuse. You just hand in the paper, you know, no one wants to hear about the dog or what else is going on at home.
We love those kinds of students.
You got to get it done. You got to get it done. You can tell other people, but you got to get it done. So I think, I don't know if that attitude works now. Now my attitude is more, I'm going to persevere. Just like you said before, it's a learning experience, and I'm just going to give myself permission to try new things. I tried new things at work, and I evolved and improved as a teacher in different fields. So I give myself permission to do that now with writing the articles.
Makes sense. And so specifically on the article you're working on, where do you think that in terms of the process, at what stage are you at this point?
I would say I'm past the middle of it, and I'm just looking to think. The article is basically a mixed method study, so right now I'm thinking, how can I best mix my methods a little more than I did in my dissertation? I'm noticing that in the articles that I've read that have been published on mixed methods, that there's a more interconnectedness between the qualitative and the quantitative findings. So how can I further support my quantitative findings with my qualitative findings in a way that flows? Sure. And also, I had so many findings for my dissertation, so I really need to focus on ones that will most contribute to the field, because there were a lot that reinforced and extended, and there were some that I felt were new and would give people a new way of looking at things.
Plus, depending on the journal that you selected, some of the extant literature might speak more profoundly to the readership of one journal versus another. It could be related to a grade level range. I know you worked with students grades 3 to 5, I believe it was.
Right.
And so that might speak to upper elementary, into middle grades, impacting what's done in the literacy classroom there. Whereas other journals might be more of a wide scope in terms of their readership or grade level expectancy of content. And so again, what you say matters based on where you publish it, certainly. So I really want to, I appreciate you joining us today. I know that it's a constantly evolving process to develop as a newly minted PhD in literacy student. I will say on record that you were an absolute pleasure to supervise. Jennifer, you're an amazing scholar, and I see nothing but bright things in your future.
Oh, thank you so much.
So everyone, this is Dr. Jennifer Hoffman. She's going to be the newest best thing in the literacy field in just a few years. And kudos to you on that. And hopefully we can talk again really soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.